Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I have the great pleasure to play that room empty so that everybody quickly finds their way to the super finals. So we'll try our best here. And it's really a pleasure to talk about this topic with you today. So my name is Aziz Rahim. I'm a proud member of the Siemens Energy family, and particularly representing the Siemens Energy Ventures. As the ventures unit of Siemens Energy, we're basically building ventures, we're investing in ventures, and we're also piloting ventures. By building, I mean we're enabling our own colleagues to basically acquire basic entrepreneurial skills, bring their ideas to business readiness, and then when the time is right to either spin those topics in, so hand it over to the business, or spin it out. And an example for that is a company called Makerverse. Here, together with our partners, we've done the spin-off. They're basically out in the market, offering manufacturing as a service, basically, to their customers, and just recently closed a Series A investment round. And when we invest in companies, for us, the key element basically is to leverage our core competencies as Siemens Energy, because over the past century, I would say, we've been able to build up some very specific qualities and know-how that we can basically now use to help startups to reach that next milestone. A very recent investment that we did was Geopura, a UK-based company offering green electricity as a service. And what we're doing there is basically helping them to build up their manufacturing for their hydrogen power units, engineering design, and also helping them to enter different markets outside of Europe through the global setup of our innovation centers. And when we pilot startups or with startups, this is basically very much around enabling technologies where a lot of great work has already been done out there, a lot of great investments have been done. And for us, this is really a means to be a good customer to startups, understand the potential of the solutions and how it can help us also to gap some internal skills, but at the same time also grow together with those startups. And a typical path for that would really be that we adopt the solution in terms of, after the pilot, we roll it out, and we'll see a few examples of that going forward. And I think it goes without saying that as an integrated energy technology company, we're operating pretty much across the whole value chain of energy. That means that from low to zero emission power generation, we're moving to transporting, storing energy, but then also helping industries to optimize their electricity use, but also decreasing their carbon emissions. And that includes basically our electrolyzer businesses, where we're helping our customers to produce green hydrogen, but then also moves on to our hydrogen power, or hydrogen-ready gas turbines, plus the wind business. And I think what I would like to point out with this is that not only that we're active across the whole field, but we're basically delivering products, services, and solutions. And around 1/6 of the world's electricity generation is based on our technology. That is not only a great opportunity for us when we're servicing these assets to bring in constantly innovations, but it's also key because this is also our responsibility to basically make sure that security of supply and the most modern way of using these assets is guaranteed. And that pretty much leads me to the topic for today, because we're seeing a lot of changes in the market, obviously. And in here, on the one side, the workforce is changing. So about 1/3 of the workforce, if we're looking at Europe, for example, will be retired by 2030. Roughly 20% already in the next 5 years. And at the same time, it becomes increasingly difficult to train and hire young people to enter these very difficult jobs, working on these plants in very difficult environments, but also 24/7 shifts. That is one thing that we're observing. On the other side, obviously, and I think everybody's an expert here, the energy markets are changing. The demands for electricity generation are changing. Reducing the environmental impact of the energy landscape is at the core of it, increasing efficiencies, decreasing the costs for electricity. And with that, there is obviously increasing complexity in the markets, but at the same time, the way power plants are being used is simply changing. So with more and more renewables in the grids, we don't really need that much of base load maybe anymore. But what we do need is part load, what we do need is peak load, and in that regard, a power plant will not be in use all the time. Going back also to the demographic change, there's probably also not the need to have a full team present at the power plant 24/7, basically. And then at the same time, technical developments moving forward, enabling technologies like in the IoT space, like in the data analytics space, better sensoring. They all enable basically to also tackle these two main drivers or trends that we're observing here, which makes autonomous operations not only an opportunity, but pretty much also a must going forward. And also looking at on the customer side, our customers obviously have requirements there. They would like to, based on what we're seeing, lower their OpEx, which means we would like to centralize the personnel to some extent. They have a strong interest in their business continuity. That means continuing to optimize the operation of their assets, and at the same time also making sure that there is some level of one-stop shop that basically handles all these solutions for them so that they don't have to worry too much about that, but rather worrying about the output that they're producing to the grids. And then higher availability, which basically means we want to try to avoid downtimes, because it costs a lot of money to basically increase a few percentage points of efficiency in power plants. But then once there is a downtime, once one or two of your units stand still, all this is pretty much nullified. And last but not least, I think at the core of the demands, but also the motivation for that would really be to reduce harm for human beings, because again, we're talking about difficult jobs, we're talking about partially even hazardous environments if we're considering, inspecting cooling towers, when we're thinking about fueling tanks where ground inspections need to be done, and therefore people really need to climb into those fueling tanks. And zero harm is very much at the core of it, and I think that is a worth challenge to accept as well. So therefore, it's pretty clear we have to go that path. And it's not a very straightforward path, but just to keep the conversation also going in that regard, I would like to discuss with you a little bit the path towards autonomous plants and autonomous operation, because where we're at today is a bit of a hybrid, and again, every plant and every site is a hybrid of also elements of the journey. But if you consider local operations, then everybody's on the same site. Things are done partially manually, partially automated, but very much centralized when it comes to all the knowledge in the plant. And then the next step of the journey would really be to have remote support. So through our services that we provide, talking here about the remote diagnostic centers, where we can descriptively tell basically our customers, look, this is going on here, this is going on there. We do have some level of visibility, but not complete visibility, and at the same time also not really able to interfere directly. And this is exactly the next step to the remote operations. So with remote operations, we're understanding remote control centers, for example, where you do have a centralized unit operating one power plant or even multiple power plants when it comes to startups, shutdowns, and then at the same time also become more prescriptive with the support that we offer. And then the next step of the evolution would be autonomous operations, and this is something that we're able to demonstrate already today for a limited amount of time, and this is also due to regulations, but up to 72 hours, we've been proving that a power plant can be completely not unmanned, but low-manned, because there is, again, the need for a minimum amount of multi-skilled personnel to be on site, but to really operate the plants autonomously. And then after 72 hours, basically, humans would take over again. And as the North Star, we see in a completely autonomous plant, which basically means that there is pretty much no humans involved. Again, if we translate it back to probably also on regulations requirements, low manned, but this is a self-optimizing system. This is a system that takes decisions, that basically improves itself going forward, and is fully AI driven. So in summary, the operators and the way they're working changes. From completely on-site operations where troubleshooting, monitoring, reporting, analytics, everything is done on-site. We're more in a hybrid environment where some basic tasks are done on-site, no longer 24/7. But when it comes to troubleshooting, when it comes to communications, work plans, and all that, we have some level of operations on-site, but then also a lot of it remote or automated. And that comes obviously with certain challenges. And again, we need to address this, and this represents a huge playground, an opportunity to also innovate. And one of the big claims of our company is that we can't do this alone, and quite frankly, we also don't want to do this alone. And this is the activities that we are picking up with our venture clienting unit. And also want to point out my colleague Eva here with me. So if you do also have even solutions that you think are worthwhile for us to explore, Eva is leading our venture clienting activities within the ventures. And over the past 1.5 years, we've been piloting over 20 startup solutions within that environment when it comes to cybersecurity, when it comes to robotics, when it comes to data analytics, when it comes to image analytics, because it was key for us to really understand, like, what are the things that are really meant to be done in-house? What are the things where venture capital has already done a great job supporting the best founders out there, and there is no point for us to even starting to pick up on this, but rather making sure that we're working with the best here. And what's interesting about this, or what we're actually proud of, is that over 10 of these pilots are in adoption phase, meaning that we've done a basic pilot. Let me pick the case of Percepto, because we're going to deep dive it a little bit later, is that we tested it, we understood the business case potential, we understood the benefits it provides also to our customer, and then took the decision to help them to roll out their solution with our customers globally. So right now we're talking about 8 additional power plants in Israel, Europe, and Latin America, where the solution will be rolled out. And this is how we're trying to address the sort of ecosystem we need to build up in order to help our customers to ensure their business continuity, but at the same time also being a solution provider for them. And in here, there is some stuff that we can bring to the table, and this should be also seen as a bit of a win-win situation for us, but also for the startups and then the partners that we're working with, because we're talking about over 1,400 assets that we had the pleasure of touching and seeing and then knowing them a little bit. We're talking about 1,000 combined years of experience in one library. We're talking about over 5,500 unique failure modes that we've experienced. So in short, this is our domain know-how. We have a good understanding of what's going on in the plant, and at the same time having a central brain, the DVPI, that allows to then, either the field workers or robots to do these rounds, to do the inspection and guide them through our navigation, so that, from agreeing to take up a certain job to really conducting the job, collecting the data, there is a minimum time spent there. And one use case is Percepto. As I mentioned, we piloted their solution in our power plant that we're operating for our customer in Israel, Alongat. They're basically capturing visual, thermal, and 3D data for inspection, routine inspections basically that we need to do. And the second example I would like to point out is Anybotics, a company from Zurich, where their robot animal, again guided through our DVPI, is collecting visual but also acoustic data to then identify any sort of anomalies and address those accordingly. And I'll run out of time in 5 seconds from now, but let me quickly give you this one more sentence to that, because again, driving that kind of innovation from a technical point of view is something that we as the ventures team obviously burn for. But at the same time, our business is very much interested in picking up these solutions. But sometimes it's a matter of capacities available, it's a matter of headspace, and there innovation really becomes a human-driven business for it to happen. And for these two pilots, they would have never happened if my colleagues Uri in Israel, my colleague Jaydeep from India would have not picked those up, brought it to the business, for months basically running through these pilots together with them and making sure that whatever sort of difficulties in translation between corporate and startup occurs, they pick those up to really bring it to that point so that we can actually proudly now present these cases. And with that, I'm closing my case for autonomous operations. We're very keen to continue on this journey, hopefully also with some of you in the room, and hopefully I'll see some of you later also during the dinner. And yeah, thanks a lot for having me.